Coming to you from a cruise ship stuck at sea, I'm RJ Balde, and it's time to hash it out. The TRICHOMES Hash It Out podcast features talks about trending cannabis topics. We also bring in industry insiders and influencers to discuss their point of view. In this episode, as a part of Convo 19, a special TRICHOMES series, I'll be talking to cannabis advisor and podcast host Kristen Yoder about the dangers posed in the spread of misinformation within the cannabis industry. We'll also talk about how the coronavirus is affecting cannabis businesses, the importance of calling out the BS, and much more. Without further ado, here is my guest, Kristen Yoder. All right, today I am joined by Kristen Yoder, founder of the cannabis industry advisory firm Soil to the Oil and host of the Cannabis Detector podcast. Kristen has over 15 years of experience in the cannabis industry, from starting as a dispensary worker to becoming an independent strategic business advisor, was featured in Forbes and was named one of Marijuana Venture magazine's 40 Under 40 Rising Stars of Cannabis in 2018. Through Soil to the Oil, Kristen lives to, quote, dispel BS and bring to light that which is unknown and or underestimated by the majority of people and businesses entering the cannabis industry. Kristen Yoder, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you so much. That was like the most comprehensive intro I've ever received, and I love it.
Oh, right on. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad you liked it. So we're going to talk mostly about the coronavirus and COVID-19. It's sweeping up the news, and it's certainly sweeping up everyone's attention spans. But first and foremost, how are you doing? How is your family doing? How are your loved ones doing?
I am good. I think my family is good. My dad lives in Cambodia, and they're so crazy that they actually will arrest you if you say anything about it online. So I don't know how they're doing as a country or how my dad is, but last time I talked to him, he was like, "Look, if I get it, I'm going to die. That's just the way it is. Like the healthcare sucks here." And what am I gonna do? I'm like, wash your freaking hands. Like do your
There's a
best.
start. Yeah,
Don't die if you can help it. Like just make the necessary precautions.
are they under any sort of lockdown or coronavirus closures or anything like that?
I literally have no idea because much like China censors its media, I didn't know Cambodia was the same, but apparently people who have written about it online have disappeared. And that's crazy.
Just from writing things online.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what that's about, but the things we take for granted in the US, free speech is pretty nice.
So you haven't had much, you are mostly unaware of his well-being right now?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, I mean, I talked to him like a week and a half ago, and he said things were starting to spread, but that was about it. I don't know. I think he's paranoid to even talk on the phone about it.
Sure. I mean, I can imagine so. Yeah, if you're hearing stories about people facing penalties for just talking about it, I can imagine that would definitely spread. We're already facing like such a high level of paranoia and anxiety. Like people monitoring what you're doing on the internet would just be an extra layer of anxiety-inducing, harrowing situation, as if we don't already have enough going on.
Yeah, it's scary. But my mom and stepdad are in Las Vegas, and they're doing well so far. So, I mean, it's all just a matter of wearing masks and washing your hands and staying inside as much as possible.
Totally. Now, the coronavirus pandemic has sparked a new spread of misinformation about it. So, in the world of cannabis, what's the BS you've been hearing about it lately that's been pissing you off?
Well, I mean, to hear, God, what is this dude's name? Ricky something was like, cannabis cures coronavirus, and the people he works with, I guess they like pushed him out. He stepped down. He resigned from all of his companies because he refuses to stop claiming that. So that's some crazy bullshit. Because we don't have proof of that, obviously. And I mean, I know that cannabis enthusiasts ascribe a lot of miraculous benefits to cannabis. And while it does have a lot of epically amazing medical benefits, it can't cure everything. Like, let's be honest. So, I don't even know if smoking is a good idea. Like, it's like when you look at a bong that you dab out of, it reconstitutes in the water. But if you look at a bong that you smoke flower out of, it gets so dirty and tarry. And considering that this is a serious, severe upper respiratory issue, um, I don't see how smoking cannabis could be beneficial. Maybe taking it orally, I don't know. It sounds pretty bad when you get sick, but then people get sick in different ways. So it's all just like up in the air. And when you ask about BS in the industry, to be honest, I've kind of checked out. Um, like once I had to go in the stay in orders in Los Angeles, I just it's like space. I can't comprehend it. It's beyond my comprehension. It's so unknown and so massive, the effects of this pandemic, that I have a hard time wrapping my head around what the future of our industry will be like, because we're just starting the pandemic part. Like, we're nowhere near the reconciliation part. So I don't know, to be honest. It stresses me out a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I relate to that stress. Had you heard of the former NFL player? He owns, I believe it's a cannabis company. Maybe it's a dispensary company in Las Vegas, and he just opened one in Moreno Valley here in California. And he claims very heavily that hemp specifically and cannabis are very effective against the coronavirus, even so much so that he made a full page spread on his cannabis post athletic product company website, with the caption "Crush Corona," and it was like a promo for his products. And then the FDA sent him a letter and told him to stop doing that. So
Yeah, because duh, like, obviously, you know? I mean, this industry has faced unknown, drastic situations numerous times. If anyone is used to chaos and disaster, it's the cannabis industry. So I have more faith that we will survive this pandemic, um, because we have the innovative approaches, we are more resilient, and we have cannabis at the end of the day to chill us out from all of the stress and drama that we go through. So I don't think it's over for all of us. I just don't know who's going to be left. I just don't know yet. It's too early.
with the cannabis industry being sort of, ever since the cannabis industry became an industry, it was fraught with all sorts of misinformation and continues to be fraught with misinformation. Do you think that do you think that might make cannabis industries more adept in adapting to dealing with misinformation in terms of the pandemic and ultimately getting through it and surviving through a pandemic like this?
I don't know, because the cannabis industry is still filled with a ton of misinformation and bullshit. So I think that we might have a propensity to believe bullshit, and that's not good. Cannabis has so many unknown scientific um, actions that we're just still discovering. I mean, with over 400 active molecules, it's hard to know what does what for what and who. So it's very much similar to the pandemic, but it's almost worse because people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of people we know. And that's what freaks me out is the demographic that COVID really affects is senior citizens. They're also very large purchasers of cannabis. And when you're desperate for anything, for relief, for your life, etc., you're going to be more susceptible to bullshit than less, in my opinion.
Definitely. I think, well, all of the older people in my family are always susceptible to like online scams and things like that. And I think a lot of misinformation, people that spread misinformation, sort of target those people that they know are more vulnerable.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. So I don't think we've even seen the bad side of people come out yet. But I live in LA. Where do you live?
I am in Orange County. I'm in Anaheim, just on the border of Anaheim and Buena Park.
Yeah, so I don't know. You know, there's movies about disasters happening in LA, and this is not the place you want to be when food gets when there's less food, when people run out of money, when people get evicted. That's when shit hits the fan, you know? And when people are desperate, they do desperate things. And I mean, Trump is bad enough, but for him to be president during this like time is the fucking worst. It's just the worst. And I mean, I just saw that he removed the person that was going to be the main watchdog of his $2 trillion stimulus package and replaced it with one of his cronies. And it's just every day some fucked up thing that Trump is doing that is going to affect us all. And I'm afraid, like, we have higher unemployment numbers than ever before. And when are those jobs coming back? When will we ever be safe enough to congregate in clubs and bars and restaurants and different places? Like, when will that actually happen? Is that after a vaccine? Because that's a year, that's at least a year, if not a year and a half out. How do people make money? How do we pay our bills after the unemployment runs out? How do we keep our places? I mean, there's a moratorium on evictions in Los Angeles, but they're only giving us April and May, and we still have to pay those months back over the next 12 months.
Yep,
But
same here.
how are we supposed to do that? Like, if we could have paid our rent in the first place, we would have. So it's just like, is there going to be a mass eviction wave? Like, where do we go? A lot of cannabis businesses, I mean, even the people that don't have businesses that have been waiting forever to get a license, and they haven't been able to make any money off of where they're at, yet they still have to pay a lease and they still have to pay fees and property taxes, etc. What are they going to do? They already don't have a business. You know, they've already been facing adversity. Now, who knows? Like, who knows what's going to happen? How many of our government officials will be left? I mean, the prime minister of Britain is like in the ICU right now. And it's because he was a dumbass and kept shaking people's hands to prove that there was nothing to be worried about. And I can't help but wish Trump would do that too and just get sick.
I mean, he was shaking people's hands like way past. It was recommended to stop doing that.
And what's crazy is all of these politicians are making moves and saying things for economic reasons, not for health reasons. But don't they realize that the economy is on the backs of the people? And when the people are dying, then what are you going to do? You know? So, I mean, if this affects senior citizens, then that means that our politicians are more prone to it than others. That means business owners, people that are more senior in their companies. I just don't know how it's going to turn out. But watching New York has just been like traumatic.
Yeah, very eye opening. Very eye opening indeed.
Yeah. And that's the beginning, you know? And I know that they're going to be really worse off because they use mass transit and they're just on top of each other everywhere. But I mean, you look at the Wisconsin primaries and they still held it. And they held it because then only the Republicans will win. It was to prevent people from voting. And the corruption during this pandemic is more worth paying attention to than anything before. It's like, I'm not even focused on bullshit in the cannabis industry because there's so much bullshit happening under the guise of national security and safety that is going to fuck us for decades. I mean, Trump couldn't leave soon enough, and God knows if he even does. I really hope he does. It just seems like even to this day, his supporters just still support him, even though his supporters are the dumbasses out there still in social gatherings. And, I'd like to say natural selection, but unfortunately, those people go on to infect a bunch of smart people that are related to them or run into them somewhere. And it's a new world. And I don't have a very positive view of the way things are going to turn out if they continue the way that they're going.
Absolutely. And you obviously have never been hesitant to express your qualms regarding what the government
Anything.
does. You've described efforts to legalize marijuana as the government not trying to protect consumers, but just wanting money from it. So this question is kind of in two parts. The first one is, well, you clearly are not happy with the job that the Trump administration has done in preparing and mitigating the effects of this coronavirus. Where do you see opportunity for them to make it any better, if at all?
I mean, we're kind of past that. It's like tell all 50 states they have to stay in, and make them stay in. I don't want to see martial law. Like, I don't want to see people having to literally get shoved into their places. But if these stupid people don't get their minds right, then that's a real possibility. I mean, Trump fucked up everything. I mean, Jared Kushner talking about how the national reserves is theirs, not states. It's just every fucking day. And I've been trying not to say the F word as much on interviews, but I can't help it at this point
You know
because
what? Sometimes it's the only word that works.
I'm
Yeah.
exasperated. Yeah, I think we're fucked. And I don't know how it's going to get better until Trump tells everyone they have to wear masks and he himself wears a mask. We need Trump to tell the entire country to stay in. And until they do that, I don't know when this is going to end. I mean, we need to have better oversight over the stimulus package because it's all going to go to corporations, all of Trump's friends, and we just have been fucked so many times. To add a pandemic to it is just mind numbing. So I don't know. I think he could do what his medical advisors say. That would be a start.
Also a stretch, though, doesn't it sound like?
Oh, yeah, no, totally. I have no faith in him. It just gets worse every single day that I look at the news, but I can't turn away. My dad once sent me this thing. Like, back in 2008, I bought the domain The Cynical Stoner, and I made it into like a news repository and put everything I thought was important for people to learn. Because at my dispensary, it was like too much to educate people. So I sent them to my site. And I've always been a cynical person. And my dad sent me something that said the definition of a cynic is an expert at everything that's wrong in the world. And that's me. That's me. I'm a student of disaster. I
Ooh, I
can't
love that. A student of disaster.
I can't take my eyes off of it. And I learn these things. I learn from disasters what to recognize. This is why I'm so adept at spotting bullshit because I study it. It's literally my study and it does not help your mental health though. Like I do not recommend it. I tell people like I'm not the only advisor you should have. I'm the one who's going to point out every single roadblock. You need someone positive that has the attitude to say fuck it, we can overcome this, because that's not me. I just don't have a lot of faith in people. So it's, I don't know, dude. It's not turning out very well.
Oh, I feel you. Yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. Yeah, absolutely. Now, something else that this pandemic has done is sort of further drive that wedge between the federal government and the state and local governments. Like places such as Denver, Colorado face mass confusion when the mayor initially deemed cannabis dispensaries non essential when their lockdown first began, and then reversed that course after people were waiting in hours long lines to get into the dispensary. So, when it comes to cannabis businesses and local governments, what are your thoughts on how they've dealt with the crisis as compared to the federal government?
Well, the federal government is just a garbage fire of destruction. So they're irrelevant. And I don't even think anybody in the federal government is talking about cannabis or thinking about it right now. So I think the states have, I mean, they know what they're dealing with more than anyone else. Why would, I mean, LA allows restaurants to deliver cocktails. Why can't we have cannabis, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, if you think about it, cannabis people are some of the chillest, most adaptable people. Just don't take our fucking weed from us, you know? That's just mean. And you know what's crazy is all these people are stocking up on guns. Like, let them
Yeah.
stock up on weed then too, so that they don't use the guns until necessary, I guess. And when is it necessary? I have no idea. What a crazy new world we're living in, you know?
It's like we will know the before times before coronavirus and then the after times. Like we've
Exactly.
really, really turned a new page, started a new chapter.
Exactly. I mean, even with my podcast, I'll be the first to admit I'm not very good at putting it out on a timely schedule because I hate writing show notes more than anything. Well, I hate hearing myself and then I hate doing show notes. So I have like 5 or 6 episodes that I really need to release. And then I think I need to take a new direction with my podcast because it's no longer about the bullshit in the cannabis industry. Unless there is, I don't know, dude. I've been avoiding the news because it just stresses me out. But I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is after coronavirus. This is a different world. And I need to reevaluate everything, you know?
Yeah. Now, in your speaking of that, in your most recent Cannabis podcast, you described yourself as quote bad for a lot of people's businesses because you'll actually talk your clients out of getting into the industry in the first place. So, from where does that motivation to steer others into what you believe is the right direction in navigating the cannabis industry? Where does that come from, and what makes you stay skeptical and want to call out that BS?
So, like, when it comes to bad for business, I only like working with people in the idea stage because by the time you're operating, it's too late for me to save you in a way that won't cost you a bunch of money. Like, I'm not here to be a consultant to cater to your whims. I'm here to be like, your marketing is totally fucked and it's not based off of science. And, you know, these are my recommendations, whatever. So I don't even waste my time there. When I talk people out of getting into the industry, I mean, because someone had cancer and cannabis saved their life. Now they want to start a cannabis company, but they have no money. They have no idea what they're up against. They don't have anyone to just tell them the truth because everything you read in the media seems like you're going to make so much money. And so I'm just here to be a reality check and to, you know, see, do you have a viable strategy? And they don't. Most people don't. Most people enjoy designing logos and packaging and coming up with product ideas, but there is a massively regulated side to this industry that you cannot ignore. It is more important than anything. The branding is fun. That's the fun part, but you cannot focus on that in the beginning without knowing that you have a solid business plan that accounts for the risks and the expenses that you're going to incur.
And in what ways have you had to alter your business practices or processes now that we all have to stay in our bunkers?
I have no idea. I haven't even thought about it. I was just planning on filing for unemployment and getting 2,400 a month from the government until I can figure out what to do. I mean, I haven't really focused on being a strategic advisor because it's not my passion. My passion is teaching and speaking, and I can do both of those online. So I'm thinking about starting a YouTube channel and just building up on the audience that I already have and talking to them and doing online courses, etc. But I just need time to like figure shit out. You know, how am I even going to pay my rent? My roommate moved out last month.
Oh,
And you know
no.
how hard it is to find a roommate during a pandemic? Like,
Yeah,
I've
I
given
can
up.
imagine.
because I don't trust anyone to not bring a virus into my home. So now my
Totally.
rent went from 800 a month to 1900 a month. And I don't know how I'm going to make money. So I'm in a precarious situation that's kind of left me a bit paralyzed, you know?
Yeah, I think we all definitely feel in our own way very paralyzed by everything. Everything is on hold, everything is indefinitely postponed. It's
Yeah,
this
it's
weird
shock.
limbo feeling every morning when I wake up. I just like am like, what is going on today? Like I don't know what is happening.
Yeah, I wake up and I read the New York Times, and then
Hmm.
I'm just like, the world is over. And then
Yeah,
I go on Reddit and I go on like coronavirus California or whatever. And then I'm like, oh my God, I've just been saturating myself with the news, and I need a freaking break. But I can't go anywhere. So
I
like,
know,
what am I
right?
supposed to do? Like, I can't fight it, you know?
Yeah, I'm out here taking long walks to my like mailbox just to like get some fresh air every now and again.
I'm like paranoid to even do laundry downstairs. I'm paranoid of the elevator, you
Yeah,
know, like it's just every decision we have to make becomes a much larger, important decision that used to be like, I need food. I'm going to go to the grocery store or I'm going to order pizza. Like last night, I was really hungry and I'm like, I kind of want to order from a Mexican place, but then is their food heated up enough to kill the virus on it? Like, what if someone sneezed on the food or something? Then am I going to get sick from it? Like, what kind of food should I order? Should I order like hot food? Like, it's just everything stressful, you know, it's all just, I don't know, man. But we're all going
I'm
to
right
have
there with you.
PTSD after this for sure.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. It takes up so much of everybody's attention
Yeah, it's
24 hours a
tiring.
day.
It's tiring. Like, I don't have a
Absolutely.
car. Instacart is not delivering until Sunday.
Hmm.
Amazon Fresh just doesn't even work anymore. And the LA County Health Department is saying that if possible, avoid grocery stores this week.
I
And
heard
I'm
that
like,
too.
I'm out of food. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm scared to get in an Uber because
Yep.
what if a sick person was in it before me? What if the Uber driver is sick but he's asymptomatic? I don't know, dude. Like,
I
what
know.
if my mask isn't sufficient enough? And like all these questions, it just leaves you tired after a while, you know?
I'm right there with you. I hear people like in the units next to me like coughing through the walls, and I'm like, "Yo, this is
Scary.
not the this is not the time
Do you have
for them."
central air in your building?
Do I have central air?
Yeah, like I don't have I have air conditioning. It's like a
Yeah,
unit in my window, but I don't have vents or anything where
yeah. Same,
other people's air could come in.
same here.
That's good.
Yeah. So switching, let's get away from the coronavirus real quick, just for a moment,
Yeah.
and we can get a little existential here, okay? Because I did a dive on your Instagram, and on your Instagram, you alluded to author Michael Pollan's book, The Botany of Desire, when you likened those working in the cannabis industry to those who have cats, calling both of us involuntary captives. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, I just realized that at the end of 2019, seeing all of these publicly traded companies lose all of their value and all of these CEOs getting ousted, it was like these guys tried to own cannabis, but you can't own it. Like, to even work with it, you have to be somewhat of a masochist or passionate, one or the other, or both. But it's like people, we spread cannabis around, like we are the bee to cannabis, like we brought it indoors. People spend their entire lifetime studying this. Look at the Raphael Meshulam. I never say it right, but he's been studying the medical aspects of cannabis forever. He's like 80 something, he's still doing it. There are growers that could have gone, I mean, they still can get arrested. There's a lot of risks they take and they're still growing. I've gone through so much bullshit, but I'm still in the industry because I love cannabis. So I would never think that I own that plant. I think governments are realizing they can't own that plant with regulations. Business owners are realizing we can't own this plant when it comes to if pests get it, or, if there's mold in it, or if the hemp was too hot with THC. We are voluntary captives. And much like cat owners, we don't own our cats. We are voluntary captives. We live with them. We are their roommates. And most of us, it's like when a cat jumps on your lap, you can't move because that's just so rare.
Oh
So
no.
it's like, okay, well, the cat is on my lap, so I can't do anything, you
Yeah,
know?
and this is just my life now. This is the way that I live.
Exactly. So I think it would be foolish to think that we own cannabis. Cannabis owns us. I mean, we have an endocannabinoid system. It does not have a human system. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. My
Yeah,
favorite quote about cannabis from that piece is uh, when Michael Pollan wrote, "Cannabis works on our minds in order to borrow our feet." And
exactly.
I think that's really deep.
Yeah,
In order, like, I think it's audacious for anyone to ever stake claim on anything that has to do with the earth for some reason. Like, even people that like stake claim on land, it's just such a funny idea to me to have the, I guess, almost an arrogance to claim that you own this piece of the earth.
totally. I mean, there is genetics, there is breeding. Um, and there is IP law that comes into plants, just like Monsanto has patents on their GMO corn and things like that. These growers, these scientists, breeders, they do come up with different phenotypes and they can call it whatever they want and it can be ascribed to them, but they did not create the plant, you know? They just bred it into a certain varietal. But again, you know what? Growers, they know their place. That's why they're not people, they're plant people. It's just not the same.
Now, my final question for you is for you, Kristen Yoder. What does a BS-less cannabis industry look like for you?
I don't think it's possible. It's like I
You
say,
don't think it's
you
possible?
can't spell cannabis without the BS. It's just a part of it. As
Ooh,
long
yeah,
as
yeah.
this is a profitable plant, there will be bullshit, period. If this plant did not make people rich, if this plant was not exploitable by governments, it wouldn't be so much bullshit. But as long as greed, and I mean, mostly corrupts, uh, greed corrupts, period. So, until no one can make money off of it, it will always be bullshit.
Well, I guess that just means the work of yourself and the work of myself and the work of those of us who are willing to speak up in that sort of manner just never stops. We'll just always have work to do.
That makes me feel better because I've been like, where do I exist in the cannabis industry now? But there will always be bullshit. And now there's so much other bullshit. So I should be busy, you know?
Totally. Totally. Yeah, there is enough bullshit to go around
Psh,
that we
amen.
are certainly staying busy during our quarantine.
Yeah, totally. So I recommend everyone to foster an animal if you can. You're already home all the time. There's literally nothing more rewarding than A, helping animals, and B, living with animals. Dogs, cats, whatever. It's kitten season. Like, there's still a need for that. And it's a great way to deal with the bullshit by just having something cute to distract you. And that's how I'm dealing with it, is with my foster
I
kitten.
love that. Do you have an animal shelter like in your local LA area you would like to shout out?
I mean, I don't even know the rescue that I'm working with, but I recommend people just Google animal rescue in their area and reach out. They need help. They can't stay in the rescues. A lot of the shelters, because of stay-in orders, are not having as many people working there, but the demand is still there for animals. I mean, animal adoptions are at an all-time high right now because why not? It's good for families, etc. But the animals need people, and who doesn't have the time? We're literally stuck at home. Like, now is the time. And if you think you can't handle fostering, then adopt it, you know? But like, help the animals.
Absolutely. We all have to help literally everybody and everything else out here to keep going.
Yes.
Kristen Yoder, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I hope you and your foster cat and everyone around you stay safe.
Thank you. You as well.
My thanks again to Kristen Yoder for joining me. If you are a member of the cannabis community and have a story you want to share with us, we would love to hear from you. You can reach the show at hashitout@trichomes.com. You can help others find the show by taking a second to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. You can also join the discussion with industry insiders and get your voice heard by joining the community at trichomes.com and following us on all social media. Hash It Out is produced by David Fortin and presented by trichomes.com. I'm RJ Balde. Thanks for listening.